Well, hey everybody. Welcome to the update preview stream. This is Bugs. I'm joined today by Miss D and Artemis. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
So, what do we got going on this week? Well, it is 1 week since the big update and forced wipe. And so there's various things going on in development, which as always we'll go through. And as always, if you have any questions as we're going through this stuff, please do ask Miss D underscore that's me in chat. And we'll get to as many questions as we have the opportunity to. Also, before we get into it, people often on Thursdays wonder, hey, when's WIP? When's wipe happening? So for Rustafied servers, it is the weekly Thursday wipe servers wiping today at their regularly scheduled time. And that regular scheduled time is 3 p.m. local time for the region. And that means that, what is it? EU wiped 2 hours ago. Now, if you're not in the US and you tune in every week, you might be saying, what the hell? They started an hour early. Or wait, an hour late? Shit, I can never.
Hour early. Yep.
An hour early, yeah.
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't know how time works, especially when they change it on me like this. But yeah, you might be like, "Hey, they're an hour off this week," and it's like, "Yeah, we are," because the U.S. did the time zone daylight savings thing, and in EU it doesn't happen until the 31st. So for the next couple weeks, we might be an hour early for you, or late or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Time's man-made anyway, right? I don't know why we change it by an hour every all the fucking time. It just confuses people. And then if we change it, can't we as countries like agree to change it at the same time?
Yeah,
Because
that would be
man,
nice.
Right?
Just
what
stop
a
it.
clusterfuck this is. Twice a year, all the time. It's like, wait, what's going on with the time? Anyway, I'll get off it with the time. It is, however, going to be 2 hours until the US servers wipe at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And then AU and SEA, they live in the future anyway. So they wiped like 11, 12 hours ago. And once again, it's the weekly Thursday wipe servers. So mains, solo, I'm blanking on small, and Zen Labs. So that's what's going on with server wipes, map wipes only, because many blueprints just wiped last week with the forced wipe and all that good stuff. So let's get into it. What is going on staging over here? Well, real quick, as can happen after a big update and forced wipe, we did see some hot fixes go live after the update last week. And a big one was over the weekend that fixed a bunch of stuff. And if you were playing the forced wipe last week, you might have noticed right after the wipe, there was some really poor performance on certain servers, especially the larger pop servers. And that unfortunately was due to a performance issue that launched with that update. Now, thankfully, the devs did release a fix for that pretty quick on the same day. So shout out to them for fixing the issue pretty quickly. But there was some really poor performance directly after the update on Thursday, which was resolved within a couple hours. And then over the weekend, I think on Saturday, they released a hot fix, which fixed a whole bunch of stuff like nightlight lighting underwater surface, and they fixed weapon burst mode indicator not displaying on the toolbar, and it no longer destroys players' sleeping bags when you start a tutorial, and they fixed some tutorial island help prompts displaying incorrect binds in certain situations, some various store UI fixes and improvements, and one of the other ones was vending machines now display the item condition when selected on a map, which is cool. And you're now able to use emojis in vending machine names, and they increase the max number of server tags to show four for when servers want to show that they have tutorial island active. And they also fix some other terrain issues with tutorial island. So those all went live over the weekend and should be live on any server you are playing on. Now, also what we got going on is some chicken costume hype. And this is a new costume that was added to the game, or the staging branch actually, last week. And it's a blow up walking, riding chicken costume, which is pretty cool. It's pretty funky looking. And it swishes around when you walk in it and stuff.
Just made
And
a
they're making
little
some
like
change.
sound.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a little noise. And it can block your vision in certain things. And it's big, so it can get in the way a little bit. But man, does it look funny! And I think it's going to be a pretty popular costume. And you might be wondering, what chicken costume? What is this for? Well, it's for Easter. It's coming up Easter at the end of the month. And every year for years, there's the in game Easter event. And we generally do see some Easter specific or Easter centric items on the item store. And it looks like this chicken costume is going to be one of the highlights of the item store items for this Easter 2024. So expect that to hit the item store towards the end of the month. What was the date that? I'm thinking the 28th probably is when it's going to hit, 2 Thursdays from now. But we'll see. And they're still doing some tweaks on it. And there's 2 variations now of the chicken costume you can see. And I don't know. It'll probably be you'll buy the chicken costume and you'll get the 2 variants probably. But we'll see. We'll play it by ear. No word on price point or anything yet, but I would expect some chicken costumes to be in the game by the end of the month. Now, also, we're seeing a whole bunch of improvements towards electricity. And this is pretty interesting stuff. Real quick, I was making some changes and I didn't save them because they made a couple other changes today, and I think I got them all, but I'll run through. Basically, what they're doing is they're making it so a lot of these miscellaneous little components that used to suck a little bit of power, and the end, like what that equated to in the end was that if you had any type of power or electricity setup that had a whole bunch of different various components, you need to juice it up a ton because all these little components each individually were sucking up power. And so one of the big things they did this week was they removed power consumption from all the following components: AND, OR, XOR, or XOR, I'm sorry, memory cell, timer, blocker, RAND, counter, switch, smart switch, splitters, root combiners, and electrical branches. So all those things used to suck a little bit of power, and now they don't have any power consumption, which is awesome. They just operate as what they're meant to do without taking any juice out of the line, so to speak, which is awesome. They also fixed memory cells draining battery on both sides instead of from just the active output. They also fixed AND, OR, and XOR gates draining batteries on both sides instead of only one side with the highest power input. And they fixed electrical lights requiring one power when off, and fixed ceiling lights being powerable. Well, what they did here, ceiling lights used to require 2 power. Now it's just 1, so they require a lot less. And they removed button active usage and power consumption. And they fixed unpowered components draining batteries. Much more common now that branches don't waste power anymore. And they also prevented electrical branch from draining power when nothing is connected to its left side. So it's just basically all this stuff where there was phantom power draining in any electrical system. They're going through to all those places where there was that phantom drain and taking it out. And this is going to make the whole electrical system much more viable, much more easier to use, much more easier to power. And just overall, these are awesome changes to electricity. And we're still seeing these changes come down as of just an hour or so ago. So I imagine we might see another couple tweaks for electricity. And realistically, all these things are going to be coming in for the next month update. What is that? That's going to be April 4th. Yeah, April 4th will be the next update, 3 weeks from today. It is a 4 Thursday month, so a normal month as we quantify it. And so we'll probably see all these changes to electricity and more coming in for the April update. Also, an interesting thing is our friend over on Twitter or X or whatever, Shelby, posted a little screenshot of the upcoming breadboards. And now this was a Hack Week project, and he said it will probably come in at some point when there's another Hack Week. So at some point in the future, we might see these breadboards come on. If you're not familiar, breadboards are like a way of putting small electrical components together and kind of wiring them up on the fly without having to solder a whole bunch of stuff together. If you've ever played with like Arduino robotics or anything like that, I'm sure you'll be familiar with what a breadboard is conceptually. Now, in Rust, I'm not sure how the breadboards are going to work. In the picture, they are just like mounted to a wall. But an interesting idea with breadboards in Rust could be that they're kind of modular, as in you could put all these electrical components and the wires on the breadboard, and then maybe you could pick the breadboard up and move it. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but it could be an interesting new option for kind of this modularized electronics in the game. So definitely an interesting thing. We're keeping a close eye on breadboards and also going to keep a close eye on any other changes to electronics or improvements to electronics that we see coming in this month. Now, in the same vein, there's entity snapping. This IO entity snapping has been added. And what this is it looks like it's just for electrical and industrial items at the moment when you're kind of mounting them on a wall. But what it will do is as you're working on putting a new electrical item on the wall, if you hold left shift, what it'll do is look at nearby items and try to snap to either the horizontal or vertical alignment of said item. And if there's an item that's like, how do I say this? If there's if you're finding a midpoint between two items, it'll snap evenly between those two items as well. So it just allows you to kind of lay out your items on the wall in a easier and cleaner fashion than before. So you don't have to eyeball it anymore. You can kind of get this like nice grid alignment without having to just like eyeball it, which is pretty cool. And once again, to do that, you just, as you're placing one of these items, you just hold left shift. And then as you move around, it'll like snap to either up and down or side to side of the items nearby, which is pretty cool. Also, we've got some more work going on bikes. And specifically, it looks like motorbikes. You might have noticed the bike branch. I think it I think it first showed up about 3 weeks ago, and we're seeing some various different commits to it. Like originally, they took the baseline of snowmobiles and then made that kind of the first kind of fundamental start of bikes. And then this week we're seeing some more commits around it where they did add a basic motorbike without a sidecar, which tells me there may be a motorbike with a sidecar, which would be cool. So I don't know if that's going to mean that two people can fit on the bike and one person in the sidecar, or if the motorcycle is just going to be one person by default, but if you get a sidecar, you can fit two people in there. Regardless, they're definitely working on some bikes. It's going to be a new form of transportation. I'm not seeing anything around bicycles. I don't think they're going to be manually operated bicycles. I think they're going to be motorbikes running on low grade fuel to start. But hey, who knows? We could see a mountain bike come in at some point as well. No visuals on any of this yet. It's still all over on the bikes branch. And I don't think we're going to see these bikes go live for the April update, as anytime a new vehicle is added, there's a lot of different things to take into account, not only the textures and models and animations and sounds, but then also all the physics and things that go behind how it traverses the planes of Rust and does so in a logical and fluent way. So I don't think we'll see motorbikes for April, but maybe May, because they do seem to be working on them at a good click. And yeah, it's going to be cool to see a new vehicle enter the game. Now, there's also several other things being worked on this week. They added a new bloodied version of the Burlap Sap. Burlap. Oh, geez. Pardon me. My
Burlap sack. Yes.
my mouth isn't working too well today. I don't know why, but anyway, Burlap Sack. It's a new world model for just when you have a head bag, it's going to be bloody. That's a new thing coming in. I think that's still on a separate branch, so I don't think there's any visuals for that. They're also doing some player rig updates to improve the way players hold certain items. It looked mainly like around the musical items and stuff like that. They're just improving the holding of those items. There's also a bunch more work on the harbor updates, and it looks like that is. And just today, we actually saw the first real indication and confirmation in the commits that the cargo ship will be docking at harbor. So they're changing harbor around. They're adding a big crane. You know, if you've ever been to like a shipyard or whatever, you can see they use those big cranes to put the big shipping containers on the cargo ships and everything. So it looks like the new cargo or the new harbor is going to have a new crane, and the cargo ship is going to, as part of its wandering around the map, it's going to actually dock for a little bit at the harbor, which is interesting and a huge, like, fundamental shift to how that in-game event works. They're also working more on the Bradley scientist, and basically that's just going to be a number of scientists, NPCs, patrolling along next to Bradley. And that's going to be not only at the launch site where Bradley normally is, but then towards the end of the wipe, when Bradley spawn all around the map, it looks like the scientists are going to be patrolling with him there as well. No word on when this is coming in, but I get the sense, given the velocity and amount of commits we've seen and how long they've been working on it, I think there is a good chance we might see this for the April update 3 weeks from today. So we'll keep you posted on that one. They're also doing some more work on updating the oil rig, and it looks like with that, it's one of the main things is they're going to be adding a new ingress point apparently, which is going to be a moon pool underneath. And that's very similar to how the underwater labs moon pools work and everything like that. But it looks like the oil rig will be easier accessible via submarine and underwater, just swimming and stuff like that, which is cool. There's also more fixes to Tutorial Island in general. Given Tutorial Island was just added last week, I imagine we'll see a number of tweaks and fixes, and even maybe more missions on there added eventually, potentially. But yeah, just a couple more tweaks on Tutorial Island. And also, in the same vein as all this other monument rework stuff, the compound monument rework continues to be done. It looks like a complete redesign fundamentally of the compound monument. There's a new church being added, there's a new city hall being added, there's new helipads and player walkways and stuff. Unfortunately, no visuals on this yet either, as it's still very much a work in progress. And the thing with all these monuments is they're all custom made and bespoke. And so when you're completely overhauling them, it's not going to be a short process. So I imagine in the next couple months, we'll probably see some visuals and see some of these monuments get added to staging and available for testing. But long and short, we've got the compound monument being redone, we've got the harbor monument being redone, and we've got the oil rig being redone. And I imagine, based on what the developers said in their first dev blog of the year, that's just the first of several other monuments we're going to be seeing reworked, as they did state. Instead of adding new monuments this year, they're going to be focusing on improving and reworking the monuments that currently exist in the game. And then finally, the skin picker mouse wheel scroll is now 4x faster. So that's nice too. You can scroll a little quicker when using your skin picker. And yeah, I think that about does it for what we got going on in Rust development so far this month. Miss D, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, we do. When are they introducing pets?
Pets is an interesting one, right? Because we have seen this come in and out of concept limbo a number of times now over the last couple of years. We saw several Halloweens ago, we saw the Frankenstein's monsters come in, which kind of was an initial iteration of the pet's functionality. And then we didn't see much on it. And then we saw a bunch of work on pets and pets 2 branch. We saw like 3 or 4 different dog breeds get added. And we saw even a training collar get added. And then work on the pets kind of stopped again. I think one of the reasons that it did stop again, and one of the reasons we don't see pets yet, is because the AI in the game is not where they want it to be. In fact, they were hiring, and I don't know if they did successfully yet or not, but as of the beginning of the year, they were hiring someone specifically for the AI, for NPCs and stuff like that, and reworking that. And I have the sense, and this isn't confirmed or anything, but I have the sense that they're waiting on the pets to be released until they get the AI reworked and someone to do that effectively. And once the AI that exists in the game now is reworked in a fashion that they're happy with, I bet that they would add the pets on top of that, utilizing this new AI that they have. So, a long winded way of saying pets are not anywhere close, I don't think, unfortunately, just because they got to rework the AI. Now, if we go a couple months from now and we're seeing a lot of commits around animal AI and things like that, I think that would be a good indication that pets are soon to follow. But as it stands now, I'd say pets are just back in the concept limbo bucket.
Let me see the next one. When is the chicken suit coming out?
It looks like for the Easter event, and I imagine the Easter event, given Easter's what, the 31st or 30th?
Yep, one of those.
It's one of those. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one of those. It's the end of the month. And so I imagine the Easter event is going to go live for the 28th. Although, actually, sometimes and oftentimes they like to run these events for 2 weeks. So it's possible the Easter event could go live next week on the 21st. And basically, this chicken suit will go live on the item store when the Easter event goes live. So I'll see if I can get some more confirmation from the devs on when they want that Easter event to go live. But yeah, as I think about it, oftentimes they do run these events for like a solid 2 weeks. And so that would mean next week we could see the Easter event going live again. Thinking about the commits, we did see Easter 2024 get merged into staging just earlier this week. So I think that does lend towards the idea that we could see Easter as soon as next week. And if we do, I think that's when we'll see the chicken suits on the item store.
Do you think that you'll be able to do a bleh, backflip on the motorbike?
I'll say probably not. It's not going to be baked in with the intention of doing a backflip, but I'm not going to say you won't be able to do one because I'm sure someone will figure out a way to get
Right?
one. But I don't think
Downhill.
it's going to be like BMX motorsport where you're going off jumps and doing double backflips and twisties, or I don't even know what they do. But I don't think it's going to be like a trick bike. I think it's going to be more like a get around the map bike.
Is the clan system still in limbo?
Yeah, the clan system is still tied up with that whole Nexus system, which is the server transfer body of work. And that all is still in process at some point, but I don't think we're going to see it till more like probably the end of the year. I think they've got several things to do before they can get that in place. So I don't know that we're going to see that server to server transfer and subsequently the clan system come in anytime in the next couple months. That's not my sense.
Is there still no word on procedural caves?
I'm also thinking back in concept limbo. It was worked on for a little bit, but then we haven't seen anything. I haven't noticed anything in the commits for a couple months, I want to say, around procedural caves. So I'd say that's probably back in concept limbo. I think it likely will come. I think it is definitely planned, but I think the devs have higher priorities at the moment. It seems like they're prioritizing restructuring these monuments and doing a couple other things on like kind of in the background, and before we see these procedural caves get added again.
When is the new TC with the display coming out?
That's a good question. I think maybe next month. I know that they're working on this new tool cupboard skin, and the word on the street, I haven't seen any visuals, is that it will have a display on the front, kind of like vending machines, so you can just spot it and look and see the upkeep and stuff. But I haven't heard any definitives on when it's going to be launched, but my guess would be for the April update.
When are they adding Fortnite dances?
Well, we've got a couple dances. I wouldn't be shocked if we get a couple more at some point in time, but I haven't seen any work on that specifically.
In theory, though, I heard about recall being adjusted. Is this true? Is this a true statement?
Well, Helk did say that he's going to be playing with the balance of various different guns. And we did see, just was it last month or whatever, we saw a couple guns, some tweaks to it. Now, I want to be clear, I don't think there's any plans to just do a reversion back to old recoil. I know a lot of people are still, and I see on Twitter responses and all this stuff saying, hey, bring back old recoil. I do not think that's ever going to be coming back. I think the devs have pushed that aside and they're not going to consider doing it again. But I do think we will see some changes, some balance, and probably some tweaks to recoil to various weapons over the course of this year because gunplay is something that they have said they're still going to be playing with and tweaking.
So is there another update today?
No, there's no update today. This is just an update preview stream. Generally speaking, the big updates happen the first Thursday of every month, and that was just last Thursday. And then after that, we can see some small hot fixes that are generally released as optional server and client fixes. But generally speaking, we don't see any updates throughout the month. Now, as I say that, of course, I realize the exception to that is when they have an in game server event for a holiday. And of course, we do have that this month. So, probably the more I think about it, I think next week we're going to see Easter go live, and that will come with a mandatory server and client update just to add the Easter content in. There could be some hot fixes and tweaks that make their way in with that Easter update, but generally speaking, I think it's just going to be turning on the Easter stuff and having the new Easter costumes go live and stuff like that. And if you're not familiar with the Easter event, we will have a full write up on rustafied.com about what you can expect. But there's like an egg hunt, and you go and you what is it? You grab different eggs, and then you can. Is it the eggs you upgrade or the
Yeah, it's pretty
now?
similar to
Yeah.
the Halloween event. So you can collect eggs, and then you upgrade them into gold and silver eggs, and you also get rewarded
Yeah.
for the amount of eggs that you collect.
Yeah, so like Halloween and the Xmas event, but just with an Easter theme, and you upgrade the eggs, you open them, you get goodies, and yeah, that's basically the Easter event. But we'll have a full rundown of what you can expect in the Easter event, likely on our article on rustified.com next week, because yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think probably Easter's going live next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's live on the server. It started when I joined the server today, so it's actually on right now.
Yeah, I saw Alistair enable it on staging just a little while ago. So yeah, that's making me think probably next week we'll see the Easter update, and we'll probably see some type of tweet or something from Rust confirming that in the near future.
Can we have an event with Rustafied and Facepoint devs and versus content creators?
I'll be honest. Running events in Rust is, especially community events, especially if it's a PvP oriented competition. Do you see what a nightmare that shit turns into every time when they do like a Rust rivals or whatever the shit, Twitch rivals, whatever that is? And then, like, I don't know, the Spanish people go completely against the other people. There's death threats being sent around and all this stuff. It's all to say, I look at that, I say, fuck that nightmare. No, I don't want to run. I don't want to run an event uh, like that. It's such a fucking nightmare. It's ruined by certain groups of people like every time, and it what should be a joyous fun affair turns into this clusterfuck of drama and angst and death threats. And do I want anything to do with that? Fuck that. No, I don't. So I'll say with confidence, probably the only event we're doing consistently as Rustified is going to be our yearly charity event, which is Charitable Rust. It happens every October in the middle of October. This year, we're still working on what charity we're going to support and everything, and we're going to have awesome fun times throughout the weekend where you can join the server and play Rust and then participate in different various mini games and stuff. And sometimes the devs do show up to that. But as far as like trying to come up with another event where like devs go against these people or anyone goes against anyone, trying to run a PvP event in Rust is just a fucking nightmare, and I want nothing to do with it. Sorry, guys.
Okay, tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, let me tell you how I really
Yeah.
feel next time.
Nice. Let's do a recap because there is no more questions right now. So if you do have questions, do add Misty_, that's me, and we do some more questions after Box is done with the recap.
Cool. Sounds like a plan. So to do a little recap here, we are 1 week since the update and forced wipe. And so we did see some hot fixes, as is per usual, go live over the weekend. You can see a full list of the hot fixes and all this other stuff, by the way, on rustafied.com. As I do an article every Thursday, it goes live midnight Eastern time each Thursday and summarizes what is going on in Rust development in text and pictures. But there were some hot fixes. There was a really bad performance issue that went live with the update last week. Thankfully, that was fixed by the devs within a couple hours after the update. And then I think on Saturday, there was an optional server and client update that released some stuff with night lighting and with like the weapon burst mode indicator not displaying on the toolbar, and players' sleeping bags don't get destroyed when starting a tutorial, and vending machines now display the item condition when selected on a map, and a couple other various fixes and things like that. So we did see some hot fixes. We've also got some hype around the chicken costume, and I do think this will go live as early as next week if the Easter event does go live next week, but it's going to be part of the Easter event. There's two variants of the chicken costume as of today, and they look great. It's a blow up walk, like riding chicken costume, and it makes some noises when you walk in it, and it's big and funny looking, and I think it's going to be popular and most likely going to be available on the item store for the duration of the Easter event. Also, we've got a whole bunch of improvements going on with electricity. The name of the game in this realm appears to be around nixing all those little components and items that were pulling a little bit of power out of the system. So there used to be little power consumption for all this stuff, but they have removed the power consumption from all the following: and or XOR memory cells, timers, blockers, RAND, counter, switch, smart switch, splitters, root combiners, and electrical branches. Previously, all those would have a little power draw. And if you had a big electrical system, you'd have to have basically a nuclear power plant running behind it to be able to supply enough electricity to run all that stuff. But now it's going to be a lot easier as they removed the power consumption from all that. They also fixed some stuff with phantom draining. So when memory cell was draining battery on both sides instead of just the active output, and certain logic gates were draining batteries on both sides instead of just the side with the highest power input, and electrical lights were requiring one power when off. And ceiling lights used to require two power, but now they've been cut in half and only require one power, which is nice. They removed the button active usage and power consumption, so that's cool. And they fixed various unpowered components draining batteries, because yeah, something wouldn't technically be requiring power, but it would still drain power. So they're just going through the whole electrical system and getting rid of a bunch of those phantom drains, and it's going to make electricity systems much more viable, I think, and easier to use and easier to power. So that's really cool to see. There's also word on the street that as of the next hack week, we may soon see breadboards, which are kind of a component to crafting electronics on the fly specifically. It's not for like consumer end electronics, but it allows you to set up electronic systems without having to solder wires together and stuff like that. And potentially it could be the gateway towards modular electronics in the game of Rust, which would be really cool. But no word specifically on that, so we'll keep you posted as more comes to light. The other thing in a similar vein is this IO entity snapping stuff, which did just go live on staging. And where this comes into play is with electrical and industrial items. When you're actually placing those components, what you can do is hold left shift when using the blue placement guide. And what it will do is align automatically with the, and snap alignment, so to speak, automatically with the other items on the wall. And so it does this with either up and down or side to side, and then it'll match things on both axes if it lines up with it. So you can much easier create grids of stuff that line up together, and you don't have to eyeball it as much anymore. So it's a nice little quality of life feature that's there. And if you don't want to use it, just don't hold left shift when placing, and you can free place wherever you want like you used to. Also, in other news, we've got a lot of work going on the bikes branch. Specifically, it looks like these are going to be motorbikes being added. In fact, this week we saw a motorbike without a sidecar get added, which tells me, ooh, are we going to have a motorbike with a sidecar eventually? That would be kind of cool. But it doesn't look like these are bicycles getting added, so to speak, because when the branch is named bikes, it could go either way, right? Like pedal powered or motor. But specifically, it looks like they're working on motorbikes, and it's just going to be a new form of transportation to get around the map. No visuals on this yet. It's all in the earlier to maybe entering mid stages of development on a separate branch. And so we're not likely going to see it, I don't think, this month. I don't think they're going to be going live for the April update, but potentially next month we might see them enter staging and see them go live in May, I would say. But nothing's confirmed either way with that, so I could be wrong. Also, there's some other stuff being worked on. They added a bloodied version of the burlap sack world model for the head bag. There's also some player rig updates so that they hold certain items better. This looked like a lot of the musical instruments from that DLC. They were just tweaking how those are held so it's better. We're also seeing some interesting work going on the harbor, specifically with a redesign of the harbor that will allow for the cargo ship to dock there for a certain amount of time. So it looks like at some point in the next couple months, we're going to have a new version of harbor that the cargo ship will dock at. And also, they're adding a crane for that, like a cargo crane. So for getting the cargo containers on a container ship, a type of crane to do that. And it looks like that crane might actually be functional. So, not sure if there's going to be some mini games or stuff added in there, or it's just going to have the cargo ship stop for a couple of minutes at the harbor and give people on the shore an opportunity to hop on and loot it or whatever. They're also, in addition to the harbor, working on the oil rig, and really it looks like mainly adding a moon pool to the bottom of one of the oil rigs. They might be making some other changes to oil rigs as well, but that's one of the key takeaways that I've heard is moon pool access, just like the underwater labs. And then finally, in the realm of monument redesign as well, we're seeing more work on the compound monument redesign where they're adding a church and a city hall, and they're basically redoing that from the ground up, from the sounds of it. And so it's going to be interesting to see that new compound come out as well. Now, all of these monument redo things do take some time. So I don't think we're going to see any of them necessarily for the April update, but definitely over the next couple months, I imagine we'll see a couple of these go live, and we'll likely see some more monuments that exist in the game currently get a redesign underway. So we'll keep you posted on all of that. They've also done some more fixes on Tutorial Island, and they're doing some more work on adding the scientist NPCs to patrol with Bradley, not only at launch site, but also when Bradley spawns at the end of the map or end of the wipe around the map. So given that, I think that might come in for April. Not sure. It's still on a separate branch, but I think it is possible we'll see some Bradley scientists patrolling with Bradley's come the April update. And then finally, they did do a faster mouse wheel scroll for the skin picker. So that's been added as well. And that's basically what we got going on for Rust development for the week.
Let's do some more questions then.
Let's do it.
Do you think the chicken costume will give egg vision? It will give
Um,
1+.
That's it at the minute. Yep, +1.
yeah, I was going to say +1 at the moment. And yeah, it makes sense, right? If you're wearing that big doofy costume, you should be able to see the eggs a little bit better. You're definitely in the spirit of Easter.
Yeah, if you don't get blocked by that big
I was
head
gonna
of
say,
a
yeah.
chicken. Yeah,
At
Yeah,
least
if you can see
even
him.
half a head.
fat head. Is it a force wipe today?
No, it is not a force wipe today. The force wipe was last week, and the force wipe is really easy to know when it is because it's just literally the first Thursday of every month. So whether that's the 7th or the 1st of the month, whenever it is, that's when the force wipe and update comes out. So that was last week, and the next one is 3 weeks from today, April 4th.
Do you think it's possible to make a modded server where you can have the old recoil back?
I forget, were there some modded servers doing old recoil? I've never
There were
played with it.
indeed, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I thought there were. And so it's possible people have done it. Am I going to do it? Is Rustafied going to do it? No, no, I'm not going to do it. I've I've been tracking development of this game for 10 years, and I can't count the number of times that throughout that time that they've made a change and then people are like, "Oh, I hate that change." And I'm not discounting people's opinions. Your opinions are valid on any change, but it's all to say the devs move on, and if you try to grip onto the past by like making a server that has an old feature like that, I think it's destined to fail because eventually people move on. So, and that's happened a number of times, like HDRP update, people tried to do old stuff,
Hardcore?
and hardcore, yeah, all this stuff, people like try to hold on to these old things, but it doesn't really ever have traction. And so we're not going to focus on that. We're just focusing on the current development of the game and how we can run the best vanilla run servers possible on the official list.
Do you think they will ever add stamina to bicycles and backpacks?
You know, I would have thought, well, let's just say I wouldn't have been surprised if the backpack had stamina built in from the get-go. But given the devs specifically said, no, there's not going to be a stamina thing, there's not going to be like a real hindrance on movement with the backpacks, and they said that right before it was even released. My sense is that's their stance on it, and I don't think that stance is going to change. So I don't think so. As far as bikes are concerned, what I'm seeing, and I could be wrong, there could be manually pedal operated bikes added as well. But from the commits, all I've been seeing, and maybe I missed something, but all I've been seeing is stuff about motorbikes. And with that, it doesn't make sense to have stamina because you got fuel. So you just put low grade in there and then let it rip. And so, no, I don't think they're going to be adding stamina. And you know what? Just on a personal note, I'm okay with that because whenever you're in a game and you're slowed down because you're carrying something, doesn't that suck? Like, I understand it conceptually,
Yeah.
but doesn't it fucking blow to be slowed down by stuff? So I'm frankly okay that they're not adding stamina in there.
What's up with Tutorial Island achievements?
Oh, they're probably broken. Achievements are broken all the time. But also, one thing to keep in mind with achievements is that they only happen on vanilla official servers. So if you're playing on a community server and you do the tutorial on there, you're not going to get an achievement anywhere. And so they did kind of gatekeep all the achievements to the official list. So that's the only place you're going to get it. So if you played a tutorial on not the official list, that makes sense. But also, as I said, like achievements have been notorious for not registering properly in the past in certain instances and for certain achievements, and inevitably they're fixed by the devs. But yeah, if you did the tutorial on an official list and you didn't get your achievement, then it might just be bugged at the moment.
And last question for now. Can you make a duo server that randomly, automatically pairs players together for a wipe?
Oh, I really love that idea actually. I love that kind of auto matchmaking kind of thing. As it stands now, I'll be straight. We're not planning on opening any new servers, duo or otherwise. We have, when it comes to group limited servers, we have solo and we have trio. And I feel like that kind of is a good balance. I'll also be straight about our priority in the servers is getting rid of hackers. And let's be real, the hacker situation has been fucked for forever. It hasn't been unfucked anytime recently. It's still fucked, right? So we still have hundreds of hackers, if not thousands, entering the game every day. And when we talk about priorities over here on the moderation end of our servers, the priority is handling hackers. And when we create a server where it has group limits artificially in place, like trio or solo, inevitably people try to cheat the system. And that requires hands-on moderation help to track these cheaters, these people who are cheating the system down and reprimand them. But that takes away from our ability to get rid of the hackers on all the servers as well, because we have a finite amount of resources here when it comes to moderation. So the idea of opening another group limited server or team limit server is not very attractive to me at this time, just because we've got so much work to do on getting rid of the hackers. And I wouldn't want to create yet another server that has more additional moderation uh, responsibilities than just the vanilla state of it and getting rid of hackers. And I hope that makes sense.
Do you know when there's coming new Twitch drops from Rust?
Yeah, I'm not sure when the next Twitch drop campaign is. I'd say we're probably due for one pretty soon here. And the devs at a point said they were looking to do one every other month, I think they said, but it wasn't like a set in stone thing. So I'm not aware of the next Twitch drop campaign, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see one in the next month or two.
I think that's it.
All
I
right,
don't see
cool.
any.
Well, with that, I think we will wind this puppy down. I do want to take a moment to thank everyone for tuning in and for the support. A lot of people think we're on the Facepunch payroll or we're the developers of the game or something like that. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. We're just an independent organization who loves reporting on development news and running the best servers that we can. And the only way we can do that is through the support of the community. So, to everyone who watches and subscribes on Twitch and gives us bits on Twitch, thank you. And to our wonderful, beautiful, loyal VIP customers, thank you all so very much for the support, because it's your support that keeps our servers running and keeps us being able to come back week after week, month after month, and quite frankly, year after year. We're going on 10 years here. So thank you for that support, really from the bottom of my heart. And much love to you all. And as always, we'll be back next week to show off. I'm thinking it probably will be Easter. As I think about it more, I'm thinking it probably will be Easter next week. So we'll probably be here showing off some chicken costumes and the egg hunts and all the other Easter goodness next week. But we are here every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, to show you off what is going on in Rust development. And a huge thank you, as always, to Misty and Artemis for being my co MCs.
You're welcome as always.
Yep, you're always welcome.
And cool. And with that, we're going to wind this puppy down. I, once again, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a wonderful week and a wonderful wipe. This is Bugs signing off.